If it please the court and counsel, can you state your name and spell your last name for the record?
William James Burton Jr., B-U-R-T-O-N.
All right. Do you go by a nickname?
Billy.
And any other nickname?
Buckskin.
Okay.
Like the horse.
Very good. And where do you reside?
Swan Valley, Irwin.
Okay. What do you do over there?
Paint houses.
All right. How old a man are you?
60.
Okay. I'm going to ask you, are you familiar with a Randy Larkin?
Yes, I am.
And how do you know him?
Acquaintance. There's some other friends.
And how long have you known him?
10 or 12 years, probably.
All right. And some of the places that you interact with him, could you just describe that?
Covered Wagon Saloon.
All right. Have you done work for him before?
Yeah.
Okay. You just wait till I get done with my question for the ease of the reporter, okay? And, okay, so is that a place that you tend to hang out, the Covered Wagon?
Yes.
How many times do you go there in a month, for example?
Probably every other day or every day.
All right. Like the Covered Wagon.
Yeah, I worked there for 18 years, off and on, bartending.
Bartending. And I'm going to draw your attention to May of 2022. Were you working there then?
Once in a while, helping out.
And who was running the bar over there?
Kurt Jackson, or Linda Jackson, I believe, then.
Okay. And was Mr. Larkin, was he helping out around the bar at that time, if you remember?
Yeah, he did.
What was he doing?
Bartender.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask you, do you recognize Mr. Larkin being in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you point to him and describe something he's wearing?
That man right there in the gray suit with some oxygen in his nose.
Okay. And if I draw your attention to May of 2022, were you interacting regularly with Mr. Larkin?
Yeah.
And what was the reason for interacting with him?
Painting cabinets at his house.
All right. And were you painting, was that a project you were working on that month, that particular month?
Yes.
Okay. And how long of a project was that intended to be?
Well, I did a lot of work on the outside too.
How long was that project?
Probably a month.
All right. Did you finish the project?
Not quite.
Why?
Because we got in trouble.
All right. Fair enough. Can I have what's been marked as State's Exhibit Number 1 brought up? So I want to start with that last thing. You got in some trouble. What do you mean by that?
Somebody being shot at the rest area and we were there.
All right. And the rest area you're referring to, can you explain that?
The one going between Priory and Swan Valley.
I'll have you look at what's been marked as State's Exhibit Number 1. Does that look familiar?
Yes.
And tell us what that is, what it means to you.
The rest area with the cul-de-sac to the right, parking on the left.
All right. Have you been there often?
Through the years, yeah.
Okay, and why have you been visiting the rest area?
Use the restroom.
All right. Any other purposes?
No.
Okay. I'm going to draw your attention to May 12, 2022. Do you remember where you were when you first encountered Mr. Larkin, if you encountered him that day?
I was at his house doing cabinets.
Okay. And do you remember how, what time of day you encountered Mr. Larkin?
Sometime in the morning and then through the day.
Was he coming and going, or was he there the entire day?
Coming and going, I believe.
All right. And are you familiar with a man named Maury Pelton?
Yes.
And how are you familiar with him?
I've known him for quite a while. Known him since he was a kid.
Tell us who Maury Pelton was.
I knew his father. They done kind of horse racing with Kurt Jackson, and I met him through them, through Kurt Jackson.
Did you interact with Maury Pelton in Swan Valley or in your
Not really.
dealings? All right. And do you know much about him? Was he father? Was he?
I thought he was a good kid.
All right. And so during that May 12th period, did you have occasion to talk with Mr. Larkin about Mr. Pelton, Maury?
Sometimes, just, BSing.
All right. Let's begin. When was the first time you remember kind of talking about Maury Pelton with Randy Larkin?
When I was doing his cabinets, he mentioned something about him.
Okay. Do you remember what he was saying?
We have some context for time.
Sure.
I will allow that foundation, go ahead.
So, when was the first time you were talking about Maury with Mr. Larkin?
When I started on his cabinets.
And can you relate that to that shooting? Was that a couple of weeks before, a month before, or what was it?
2 or 3 weeks, probably 2 weeks at least.
All right. And what was the nature of the conversation?
Something about Maury owed him money.
All right. And what do you remember, if anything, about the conversation?
That was basically it.
And why was Mr. Larkin bringing that up?
Mad about it, I guess, because he owed him money.
And so the conversation was something about him being angry with Maury Pelton?
Yes.
All right. And was that the one and only time you heard about that before the shooting?
Man, maybe a couple other times,
Very well. And those couple of other times, what was, if you remember specifically what he said, tell us the specifics by it.
And could we have time context here too, Your Honor?
I'm going to let him answer the first question first, if he remembers what he said specifically.
That he owed him money and he wanted to beat the shit out of him.
All right. And let's talk about when that
Mr.
occurred.
Neal, you will need some more foundation as to the time for that, so Mr. Brown can cross-examine.
Sure. And when did that occur in relation to the shooting?
I'm not sure.
Would it have been?
Just during, us talking.
And can you give us a ballpark of in that time frame?
I don't know, a couple weeks before.
All right. And other than saying he wanted to beat the shit out of him, did he mention any other things? And if so, we're going to ask specifically when that occurred. But do you recall any other comments?
Not really. Nothing I can think of. Just he was wanting to beat him up.
All right. And how old was Mr. Larkin in 2022, if you know?
How old was he?
Right.
57 or 58?
And do you remember how old Maury was?
Probably in his 30s.
Okay. And is that something, beating the shit out of him, is that something you think that Mr. Larkin could have done on his own?
No.
All right. Did he want to enlist somebody to help? Did he ever say something about that?
No.
All right. So during the day of the 12th then, did Maury come up in conversation?
He might have.
All right.
I'm not sure. I can't remember for sure, but probably.
And do you remember what time of day that might have occurred then?
Mid-afternoon probably.
And so the focus started turning towards Maury.
Yeah.
And what were you hearing from Mr. Larkin?
Just, he was mad because he owed him money and he wanted to beat him up.
All right, and that was the day of the shooting?
Yeah.
All right, and did he, what else did he say about the situation that day?
Nothing basically. I just, like I said, he was just talking about Maury owing him money.
Okay. Did he ask you if you would help him, you know, beat the shit out of him or do something?
No.
Okay. And at some point then you got into a vehicle with Randy Larkin, is that correct?
Yeah.
That day. Do you remember about what time that was?
5 or 6 o'clock in the evening.
Okay. Where did you go?
We were gonna go to town and party. That's what I thought we were gonna do.
Well, where did you go instead?
I stopped at Covered Wagon, had a beer.
All right. And how long?
Can I interrupt? I apologize.
Sure, go ahead.
Did you say you go to town parking?
Party.
To town party?
Party, P-A-R-T-Y.
I just want to make sure.
Go drinking, yeah.
Okay. And how long were you at the Covered Wagon?
I'm not sure, probably maybe an hour.
Okay. And then where did you end up going after that?
We left there and was headed to town,
And when you say town,
Idaho Falls.
all right. Who was in the vehicle with
Randy and I and Gerald Hamlin.
you? Okay. How do you know Mr. Hamlin?
He'd moved into the valley a couple years before.
Okay. And had he lived there ever since, or what do you know about him?
Yeah, he lived in Swan Valley in Ireland.
All right. And so was he living there when he met up with you and Randy Larkin that night?
Yeah, I think, yeah, he was.
And what vehicle did you take?
We took his Mercedes, something or other. Can I get a glass of water?
Should be some water.
Yeah, right here.
Right here. These are tricky.
Well,
Then you pour it all over yourself. So. There you go. A little more stuff. Okay.
How did you get to the Covered Wagon? What vehicle?
then Gerald Hamlin's car.
So when did you first encounter Gerald Hamlin that day?
He stopped by Randy's.
About what time was that?
It was in the evening.
All right. And was that shortly before you went to the Covered Wagon?
Yeah,
All right. And how many vehicles were at Randy's house at the time that you guys got ready to go with the Covered Wagon?
my Explorer and Gerald's car and Randy's cars.
And do you remember the discussion about which car to take?
No,
All right. And how did you get invited to go?
they were leaving the house and I asked them where they were going. They said they're going to town. I said, come on with us.
All right. And at that point, then you all got into Gerald Hamlin's car.
Yes,
And after you, now was there a conversation that went on between the three of you there at the Covered Wagon about your plans that night?
no, just go to town, Idaho Falls.
And was Mr. Hamlin and Mr. Larkin speaking with one another while you were at the bar?
We were all kind of just, talking,
What was,
just regular BS,
what was that conversation?
just going to town. I was going to town to have some beers.
All right. And at some point then, you got back into Mr. Hamlin's Mercedes.
Yeah,
And you started driving towards Idaho Falls.
yes.
And what was the discussion about where you were going?
Nothing really. I was messing around with my phone, and I wasn't even paying attention if they were talking to each other or what. The music was up.
All right, so there was some kind of conversation going on between Mr. Larkin and Mr. Hanlon,
I believe so.
and you couldn't tell what was being said?
No, because I'd already been drinking.
All right. And you were in the back seat?
Yes.
And at what point, how far did you get down the road?
To the rest area, and Randy said he had to use the restroom.
All right. At that point, then, what happened?
We pulled in, and he went inside. And
All right. Why don't you, if I can, Your Honor, I'll have him step down and approach the diagram. Mr. Burton, what I'll have you do is stand closest to the defense table here. That allows the majority of our jury to see what you're saying. All right. Do you remember where you pulled in?
right there, and we pulled right in front of the rest area.
And how long was and you say Mr. Larkin needed to use the restroom?
Yes.
And what did he say prior to exiting the vehicle? Anything beyond he was just going to use the restroom?
No. He just had to use the restroom.
And, okay, so after he exited the car, how long was he gone?
5 minutes.
Okay. What were you doing while he was gone?
Playing on my phone in the back seat.
And tell us what do you mean by playing on your phone?
Playing a golf game.
Okay. Tell us about Mr. Pelton's, what was his condition like? Did you notice anything different about him?
Foundation, I think he misspoke himself. Try again.
Said Mr. Pelton.
Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry. I'm talking about Mr. Pelton.
It was normal.
Well,
Kind of,
do you remember talking to the detective about
Leaving.
I don't know
about the time that you were interviewed just shortly after this event?
yes.
Did you tell them what you thought his condition was?
I believe, I can't remember for sure.
Did you listen to your interview?
No. I said he was pretty screwed up.
And what do you mean he was pretty screwed up?
Drunk, high.
All right. Mr. Larkin was high?
Yes.
All right. And do you remember the terms you used to describe that?
High.
Okay. Did you compare that to a kite?
Higher than a kite.
Did you?
Yes, I did compare that.
Did you say he was strung out?
Yes, I said he was strung out.
Did you say he was fucked up?
Your Honor,
Yes.
this is, he's impeaching his own witness and asking, leading questions.
He's adopted.
Yeah, I'm gonna let him we've discussed refreshing recollection, which is fine. I've allowed a little bit of this, which is fine, he can keep going, but like I said, he needs to answer the questions, not you.
Very well. And those are what you remember
Yes.
as to his condition then?
Yes, sir.
And then he said prior to meeting up with Mr. Pelton, did he make any kind of threats towards Mr. Pelton?
Yeah, he said he wanted to beat him up because he owed him money.
Did he say anything else?
He said, I'd like to shoot the little son of a bitch.
And do you remember when he said that?
Sometime while we were sitting there at the rest area.
All right. So he gets out and he goes into the restroom, and then he comes back and gets into the vehicle.
Yes.
Did you go somewhere after he got back in?
Yeah, we drove down and around to the bottom of the cul-de-sac.
And what did you do down there?
Kelly Hinks was sitting there and Maury Pelton was talking to him.
Now, was that the first time you drove down there?
Yeah, the first time.
All right, show us where those two folks were. All right.
Right here.
And can you show us where, and Mr. Hamlin was still driving?
Yes.
And when you drove down to that lower parking area, do you remember where you parked or how you got to where you were parked?
Yeah. Pulled right around here. Pulled right up behind Maury. And Kelly Hinks was parked, I think right here. Kelly was parked with his back end towards the sidewalk, and Maury was pulled in like normal.
All right. Let's have you return to the witness. Now, at what point did you hear that you were going to be meeting up with Mr. Pelton and Mr. Hinks?
I didn't. We just pulled out and drove down there.
Okay. And did you hear anybody say, all right, there goes?
No, I heard Randy say something about there goes Maury right there.
Okay. And then what happened when he said, there goes Maury?
We drove around, I thought we were leaving, and then we drove right down after Maury had already parked. And I didn't know Kelly was down there until we drove down there. It was dark by then.
All right. And tell us who Kelly is.
Kelly Hinks,
Okay. And how do you know?
friend of ours from Swan Valley,
All right. How long have you known Mr. Hinks?
25 years.
And where is Mr. Hinks now?
He passed away this last winter.
All right. And you remember how his vehicle was parked?
Yeah, the back end was parked to the sidewalk, like he backed in.
Very well. And who got it? Were they outside the vehicles or inside?
No, they're both sitting inside. I didn't see anybody standing outside.
All right. And then who got out of your vehicle?
Randy.
And did both he and Mr. Hamlin exit or just Mr.?
No, just Randy.
All right. And did you see him carrying anything?
No.
Did he have a bag? Did he have anything?
Well,
in his hand?
he used to carry a backpack, but I can't remember if he had it on him or not.
How did he carry the backpack?
Like a purse.
Tell me.
Just one hand carrying it.
And how? Can you remember that night whether he had this backpack in his hand?
I think he did. Like I said, it was dark.
Which hand did he have it in?
Right hand, I believe.
All right. Do you know if he's left-handed or right-handed?
Right-handed.
All right. And where did Mr. Larkin go?
He walked in front of the Gerald's outfit and in between the other two outfits, the other two cars.
And where did he go once he got there?
I don't know. Like I said, I was still playing on my phone. I just happened to look up when we stopped. And he was, I guess, standing in between the cars.
Okay. Did you see what happened next?
I didn't. I heard him arguing, him and Maury arguing.
And could you make out what he was saying?
No, but you could hear it, they were arguing pretty loud. And then I heard, this went on for probably, I don't know, 2 or 3, 4 minutes. And then I heard Maury say, "I'm not scared of you, Randy Larkin." And then I heard a gunshot.
All right. And did you look up at that point?
Yeah,
What did you see?
Randy getting in the car.
All right. Did you see Randy leaving from between the two cars?
No, I heard a gunshot. I wasn't gonna look right then and there.
Well, what did you do when you heard the gunshot?
I ducked.
All right. And then
I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know who shot who.
All right. And
I didn't
then,
know anybody got shot till the next day.
and then what happened after Mr. Larkin re-entered the vehicle?
We backed out and took off.
Did you say something to Mr. Larkin?
I asked him what the hell was going on, and he told us to keep our mouths shut, don't say nothing.
All right. And then where did you go?
We went back to Swan Valley.
And what did you talk about while you were on your way back to Swan Valley?
I didn't say nothing.
Well, were the other two talking?
Not that I remember, no.
So nobody was talking.
No, Randy said we're supposed to keep our mouths shut, so we did.
All right. And did he say anything else about keeping quiet?
Just then,
Did he threaten you or Mr. Hamlin?
no. He just told us to keep our mouths shut, don't say anything.
All right. Where did you go when you went back to Swan Valley?
I went and got my outfit and I went to the covered wagon.
All right. How long were you at, your outfit was at
Randy's,
Randy's house? How long did you stay at Randy's house?
long enough to get in my outfit and go.
All right. And you went over to the covered wagon?
Yes,
And did you tell anybody what happened?
no.
Why?
I wasn't gonna say nothing.
Why weren't you going to say anything about the shooting?
Because like I said, I didn't know who shot who, and I didn't want to get shot either.
Shot by whom?
Randy Larkin.
Okay. You felt fear that if you said anything that you might get shot?
Leading.
Want to allow it?
Wouldn't you? I was.
All right. And was that the reason you didn't come forward to the police?
Yes,
And were you eventually contacted by the police?
yes,
And did you tell them the truth?
yes, I did.
All right. After the shooting, did you interact with Mr. Larkin?
No,
Did you go back to the house and resume your project?
no,
Do you know where, was Mr. Larkin still in the area as far as you knew?
no.
All right. That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Brown?
Mr. Martin, how you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Good. I've seen you for a couple months.
Yeah,
When I did come in and ask you a few questions out of the covered wagon a couple months ago, remember?
yes, sir.
And isn't it true that you told me that when I asked you, that you said there's no way on earth Randy went to that rest stop intending to shoot anybody?
Yes, I did.
And you meant that, didn't you?
At the time, yeah.
And when you said there's no way on earth that Randy went to that rest stop intending to shoot anybody, and why did you say that?
Because I actually didn't think he would have done it.
And this is after you had been questioned by the police. You knew that Randy was sitting in jail charged with first-degree murder when you told me that, correct?
I didn't know he was charged with first-degree murder. I just knew he was in jail. I didn't watch the news. I wasn't for sure. I just knew he was in jail.
Isn't that what we talked about?
Well, I guess so, yeah.
Okay. And that first time, let's see, you were actually interviewed by the police a couple of times about what happened on May 12th, 2022, correct?
Yes,
And the first time they asked you if you were up there, now you just said when they asked you questions, you told them the truth the first time, right?
the first time? No, I told him I wasn't there.
Right, yeah, you lied to them the first
Yes,
time, right?
because I was scared. I didn't know where Randy was at. I didn't know if he was gonna come shoot me. I didn't want to say nothing until they put him in jail.
Weren't you actually afraid that you might be charged with a crime?
That too.
And as a matter of fact, you had a second interview with the police, right?
Yes.
And they kind of interviewed you very harshly. Would that be a fair statement?
Well, yeah, kind of.
I mean, when they started asking you questions and they didn't like your answers, didn't the fellow asking you the questions say that he didn't believe you and that you're wasting my fucking time? Didn't he say that to you?
Yeah, but
He was making a threat to you, wasn't
no,
he? No?
didn't threaten me.
Actually, after he said that, he said, Mr. Burton, or Buckskin, whatever he called you, you know you're in a lot of trouble, don't you? Didn't he say that to you?
Yeah, I believe he did.
Yeah. And that was the context of your interview with him at that time, wasn't it? That you were there a second time.
Yeah.
And the second time was because they were contemplating charging you with a crime because you lied to them the first time. Is that true?
Yeah, but
I mean, is that true?
yes.
And didn't they tell you numerous times during that interview what they wanted to hear from you? Isn't that true?
Told him what?
Didn't they say a number of times that they wanted to hear certain things from you?
No.
Did he make some kind of threat to you? Didn't they say that over and over again to you?
I guess if that's what you want to call it, he just raised his voice, is all. Which I don't blame him, you know. Probably not just had to come clear back up there and talk to me.
Yeah, and he was being pretty, would you characterize the question you got as pretty aggressive from the officer that was questioning you?
Yeah.
That's a yes?
Yes. Didn't bother me.
Didn't bother you? Do you remember after the deputy basically was making, he was making those aggressive statements to you, and at one point you just said, quote, "I'll testify, I'll do whatever I gotta do." You were saying that to him?
Yes.
And you said that because they had basically threatened you with criminal prosecution if they didn't hear what they wanted to hear from you. Isn't that true?
No. I should have told them the truth to begin with. If they were going to charge me with something, they'd already done it.
Well, they, a number of times during that interview, isn't it true, that as you were talking to them, they told you they didn't believe you, and they wanted to hear something different. Isn't that true?
No, I don't remember wording it like that. I just remember telling me to tell the truth.
And they kept
I told
accusing you
them.
of not telling the truth, correct?
Yeah, but I told them the truth.
Didn't you get the impression that night that the officer was not going to stop accusing you of lying until you said Randy threatened to shoot Maury before you went to talk to him?
No.
No? Are you concerned that the prosecutor's office was going to charge you with a crime if you didn't say what they wanted to hear?
Nope.
That wasn't a concern of yours at all?
No.
It was just a calm conversation between you and him. I'll just tell you what I know, and that's how it went.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I did.
Let's not guess.
I told them. I told them what I knew.
Didn't you also tell him that you really didn't believe that Randy was going to shoot anybody anyway because he's just a big talker?
Yep.
And that's true. And you didn't believe Randy was going to shoot anybody, did you?
No, I didn't, but
And I think the term that you used when Randy talks like that, sometimes to people when he does, he's just blowing smoke.
yep.
Because Randy's a guy that talks a lot and he blows smoke and he says things he doesn't mean. Is that true?
Sometimes.
And I think the words that you said in your interview, correct me if I'm wrong, you heard Maurice shout out at one point, quote, "I'm not scared of you, motherfucker."
Yep,
That was pretty loud when you said that too, wasn't it?
they were both pretty loud.
So would it be fair to say that you heard a very angry voice shouting that, correct?
I guess, yeah.
And that would have been Maury Pelton shouting that?
Yep,
And a short time after, a very short time after that, you heard a gunshot and that freaked you out, correct?
yes, sir.
And freaked Gerald Hanlon out too, right?
Yes,
As a matter of fact, Randy seemed shocked too that he had actually shot Maury. Wasn't that true?
yeah.
And would you say that he seemed in a state of panic at the time?
No.
Not panic?
Well, yeah, I'd imagine since he shot him.
And he just said, "Let's get out of here,"
Yep,
and got in the car and you guys just left, right?
yes, sir.
Now, so in other words, when you were all driving and making, before you made the detour to the Lane Clark rest stop, do I understand then, you'd all planned on going to Muddy's and have some drinks that night, right?
Yes,
And you had a head start, and I think you told the officers that you had 10 shots of Jose Cuervo before you left, correct?
probably, yeah.
So you got your 10 shots of tequila in you, and all of you were planning on going to Muddy's. Okay to be drunk, and you're driving out to Muddy's to a bar, but you're not even driving, right?
Right,
Yeah. You got a designated driver, everything's cool, right?
yes,
Okay. And Randy seemed calm at that time, would that be correct?
yeah,
And being that certainly with 10 shots of tequila in you, you weren't in any position to fight anybody, is that true?
yes,
And nobody wanted you to fight anybody that night, correct?
no,
Is that correct?
yes,
And but after Maury was shot, everything changed between everybody there, isn't that fair to say?
yeah,
That there wasn't anything to celebrate at that time, right?
no,
Randy wasn't bragging about getting revenge or anything like that, correct?
no, there was nothing said.
Everybody was, it was just like, let's just go home. Everything's changed. Is that fair to say?
That calls for speculation.
I don't know about
Yes,
And you all went home, and your statement to the officer was Randy didn't threaten anybody, correct?
Objection.
That's after the shooting.
yeah,
Isn't that true?
yeah, he just told us to keep our mouths shut.
Okay. No questions I have. Thank you.
it. Neil?
I don't have any regrets for that.
Well, go ahead, Mr. Neal.
Thank you. All right, if it please the court and counsel, could you state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Gerald Hamlin, Hamlin,
And where do you live, Mr. Hamlin?
Washington,
And what town?
Shelton.
Okay. What county is that in, or what big city is that in?
I think it's Thurston.
Okay. And how long have you been living there?
We've owned the property there 3 years.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm
Mr.
retired.
Oh, okay. What did you retire from?
A union carpenter.
All right. How long did you do that for?
I joined in 1986.
And how old a man are you?
I'm 62.
Okay. And are you familiar with Randy Larkin?
Yes.
And do you see him in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you point to him and describe something he's wearing?
He's on oxygen.
All right, can you describe what he's wearing?
A gray suit and blue shirt.
How do you know Mr. Larkin?
I met him when I lived in Swan Valley,
And how long did you live in Swan Valley?
2.5 years.
And can you tell us the time frame, the years?
I moved back to Washington in 2015.
Okay. And so sometime in the area 2013, 2012, that's when you were living through
Yeah.
2015? And then did you meet Mr. Larkin back then?
Yeah.
And how did you meet?
He worked at the bar there in Swan Valley, and my brother and sister-in-law lived there. And so when I moved from Iowa to Idaho, they went to the bar once in a while, and so we went up to the bar, and that's where I met Randy and Billy.
And when you say Billy, do you know his full name?
Billy Buckskin,
All right.
Burton.
Okay, today you're here out of subpoena, or what are the conditions under which you're appearing today?
I got a subpoena.
And was this part of some kind of a plea agreement for you?
Yeah.
Was it a part of the plea agreement that you would testify truthfully in this matter?
Yes.
And what was the nature of the charges against you?
He had me as an accessory to first-degree murder.
And then any other charge?
Yeah, tampering with evidence and not turning in a crime.
All right.
I'm sorry, not turning.
In a crime.
And where are you right now? Have you been sentenced as part of that?
Yes.
Where are you right now?
I'm at a place called CAP in Boise, Idaho.
What is that?
It's a writer program.
Do you know what CAP stands for?
No.
And is that out at one of the prison facilities?
Yes.
And that's directly related to this offense?
Yeah, that's what I agreed to and you sentenced me to it.
All right. Now, Mr. Hamlin, I'll draw your attention to May of 2022. Were you contacted by the defendant in this case, Mr. Larkin?
Yeah, I was in contact with him at that time.
Okay. And now, what was you say you had a charge for, that had to do with destroying evidence or tampering with evidence?
Yeah, you deleting text messages,
And who were the deleted text messages between?
myself and Randy.
All right. Do you remember the content of those text messages?
Yeah, it was about me bringing him drugs.
All right. Your Honor, I'm going to have these marked as State's Exhibit. I think 24 is what they've already been marked as.
Hey, Dr. Counsel, just for a second, Mr. Pryor.
Thank you, Your Honor. This time I'd like to have, can I have the paper copy then presented to the witness?
Judge, can I see that?
Your Honor, objecting, and I know it hasn't been offered yet, but this witness,
Let's wait to get there.
Yeah, I have what was marked as the proposed exhibit number 24, please.
Yep, it's been given to him.
No, I'll utilize that. He's got the paper copy that we provided.
So you want the jump drive?
Please, yeah,
You want the D10
not yet.
that you're gonna need?
No, I think we can utilize just these two, please. All right, take just a second and familiarize you.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this. I think before we go through that, he's just asking, it's almost like he's asking the witness to memorize something he's never seen. I think we should ask first if he has ever seen this document.
I agree, go ahead.
Well, Your Honor, I'm just going to ask him to look at this and see if he recognizes it.
Go ahead and ask that.
All right. As you review those, do you recognize anything about them?
I object to that, Your Honor. I think the question is, does he recognize that exhibit? Has he ever seen that exhibit before? Did he create it?
I would agree with that. Sustained.
All
That's a
right.
different question.
Well, have him retrieve the exhibit. So, do you remember the day that you made this drug deal with Mr. Larkin?
No, I don't remember what day it was. It was before I came to Idaho.
All right. And what was the nature of the deal? What were you doing?
The deal.
Yeah. What were you trading? Cash and drugs. So how much?
Bleeding.
I'm going to allow it. That was the general question.
He sent me money for the drugs.
How did he send it to you?
Cash out.
And then do you remember how much it was?
It was $500.
And do you remember what you were providing to him?
As I said already, it was drugs.
Yeah. How much? What kind?
It was meth.
All right. Do you remember about how much?
2 ounces.
All right. And now is methamphetamine, is that something that you use?
No.
All right. But it's something that you have access to purchase?
I know
and sell.
people, yeah, I know where I can get it.
And 2 ounces, can you give us some idea? Is that a personal amount? Is that something that?
Object to that, Your Honor. There's no foundation for that kind of testimony coming from this witness.
He said he doesn't use it.
All right. Well, in your experience, how much does somebody usually purchase for?
Objection, Your Honor. He does not have the foundation.
Well, I didn't even finish my question, so I don't know how I can be objected.
Hold on, one of you at a time. Go ahead, Mr. Neal. He's
Thank you.
objected.
But he hasn't objected yet because I didn't finish my
He
question.
did object, but I'm going to say, go ahead and finish your, go ahead
All
and
right,
answer your
thank you,
question.
Jeff. All right, in your experience in selling drugs to people, what would be the normal amount that would be?
I don't sell
Hold
drugs.
on, don't answer. Are you finished now?
Sure.
Mr. Browning?
I'm objecting on the basis of foundation. This is an improper witness to answer that kind of question.
I sustain you'll either need to lay more foundation as
Very
to
well.
his expertise in selling drugs, or move on.
Very well. Wasn't the first time you were selling drugs?
I don't sell drugs, no.
Well, in this particular case, you
In this
did.
particular case, Randy asked me if I could get some because he said he couldn't find it here in Idaho. And I said I'd do some checking and I could get some.
All right, very
I
well.
don't buy it and I don't sell it usually, but I know people that do.
All right, and so you're not aware of whether 2 ounces was a significant amount or not?
No.
All right. And so the transaction occurred. You got your money through the cash app, is that correct? And then you took the 2 ounces of meth and what did you do with that?
I brought it to Idaho and I was on my way to Alpine, Wyoming to see a friend.
Okay, and when you arrived at what point did you take the 2 ounces of methamphetamine to Randy Larkin?
On my way through, the day I arrived here, I brought it from Washington.
Tell us what that stuff looked like. Was it in one package? Was it in multiple packages? How
It
did
was
you?
in one package.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can wait till he finishes the question before you answer, right? No, you're fine. You don't do this every day. It's okay. Just wait till he finishes.
And Judge, I'm gonna need to have a sidebar if I can about this line of questioning.
One more here. It's not gonna be here. This is about.
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So just this package that you brought, what did it look like?
It was just in a baggie. It was just a bag.
Okay, very good. Now, before you went to Alpine, you stopped by and saw Randy Larkin?
He wasn't home. I dropped off a trailer and I went to Alpine and visit with a friend all day.
Okay. Again, let's focus on the drugs. When did you give those drugs to Randy Larkin?
Later on that evening when I was on my way back through.
All right. You were coming back through Swan Valley?
Yes.
Where were you heading?
I was heading to Arizona. My cousin died. I was going to his funeral.
Okay. Let's narrow that day down. When did you arrive in Swan Valley? Do you know the date?
I don't remember.
Was it the day of the shooting or the day before?
The day of the shooting.
All right. And so after you finished your meeting in Alpine, then you went back to Swan Valley. Where did you go?
I stopped by Randy's house.
Okay. And do you remember about what time of day that was?
It was getting later in the evening, before dark, just before dark.
All right. Did you send him a text?
Yes.
What did you tell him?
I told him I was at his house.
And was that the extent of the text, or did you say something else?
I said something, I have the shit,
Okay. And what were you referring to?
the drugs.
Okay. And so you stopped by, you delivered the package to Mr. Larkin, and then what happened after that?
He asked for a ride, if I'd give him a ride to meet somebody.
He said he needed to meet somebody.
Yeah.
Okay. And did he say why he needed a ride?
No?
Now, was his vehicle there?
I really don't remember. I'm sure it was. He had plenty of vehicles around his house there.
Right. Now, let's,
When he drove up, it was there.
okay. And what were you driving?
SUV, Mercedes.
Okay, describe that a little bit further. The color, the type.
The silver Mercedes ML 320.
Okay. Is that an SUV?
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then, did that strike you as odd that he wanted you to drive as opposed to using one of the other vehicles?
He said his vehicles weren't running right.
Okay, but you say there were multiple vehicles.
Yeah.
And then, you agreed apparently.
Yeah.
And where did you take Mr. Larkin?
We went up to the bar and had a beer while he was waiting for I can't remember if it was a phone call or a text message.
All right, so apparently he needed to make some kind of arrangements for something.
Hmm?
Is that what you were waiting for?
Well, I didn't hear that.
Apparently he was making some sort of arrangements.
Yeah.
Dale, can you move the mic a little closer? You're kind of fading a little bit.
But you don't know what those arrangements were?
No.
I mean, you
He
don't
was
know
going to drop
who,
him off in Idaho Falls.
and you don't know who he was making the arrangements with?
No.
Who was in the vehicle with you?
Me, Randy, and Billy Burton.
All right, and did you know Mr. Burton before this particular day?
Yes, as I said before, I met him and Randy just about the same time when I came to Swan Valley.
When you first came back from Alpine, was Mr. Larkin there?
No.
And so the text that you sent was to let him know you were at his house?
Yes.
And who was there?
Billy
at the
Burton.
house? I'm sorry?
Billy Burton.
Anybody else?
No.
And then, how soon after you arrived there did Randy arrive?
5 minutes.
Okay. And once you went to the covered wagon, how long were you there?
Half hour maybe. Enough to drink one beer.
All right. And so when Randy said that he wanted you to take him to Idaho Falls, did he say that he needed you to bring him back?
No, I was understanding he was going to get a ride back.
All right. Did he make any indication of who he was going to get the ride back? You'll have to answer out loud.
No, he just said he was meeting somebody in Idaho Falls.
And did he, and he never mentioned the name of the person.
No.
Are you familiar with Kelly Hughes?
I've met Kelly Hinks one time prior before.
All right. Now,
I never seen him that night. But I met him after knowing everything. I knew him. I met him one other time.
all right. And then, and I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but how long did you stay at the bar before you left?
One beer, about a half hour maybe.
All right. And so let's go ahead and have State's Exhibit number 1. All right, and does that look familiar to you?
Yes,
And what is it?
that's the rest area.
All right. And so when you left the covered wagon, where did you believe you were going?
Idaho Falls.
And what deviated you from that route?
I can't remember if it was a text message or a phone call he received on our way. Said that the plans are changed. Meet at the rest area.
And tell us what happened when you got to the rest area.
We drove down below and nobody was there, so we drove up to the rest area, up there where there were bathrooms. Randy got out, went in and went to the bathroom.
All right. Now, do you remember after you went down, how long did you stay down in the lower part?
Just went around the circle there and came back.
All right. Now, there's surveillance cameras that kind of pick this area up. Do you remember leaving for a brief moment before you came back and used the...
I don't remember leaving for a brief. I remember coming up and turning into the rest area to go to the bathroom. I don't remember leaving, but
Okay. And then, now, when you stopped there and Mr. Larkin got out, did you watch where he went?
He went into the bathroom.
And how long was he gone?
Oh, I don't know. A few minutes, maybe. However long it takes to go to the bathroom, I would guess.
And that would be normally a few minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, and do you know anything about that area behind the rest area? I mean, beside the restrooms?
No, I've only been to the restrooms there. I was never down below before either.
Okay. And you said that you didn't overhear what the conversation was between Randy Larkin and the person on the phone?
No.
And prior to going over there, did you have any conversation about what the plan was?
Well, the plan was, I heard that him and Billy talking about going to the bar and they were going to beat up whoever it was and take their money and drugs because he owed Randy money.
All right, and how soon after you arrived there did something else happen?
I don't know, we were probably there, 5 or 10 minutes and then 2 vehicles drove down below.
Did they stop and talk to you?
No,
All right, and do you remember what the first vehicle looked like?
I don't remember.
All right,
I don't remember either one of the vehicles. I couldn't have told you what they were.
all right. Did you go down into the lower parking lot and talk with the first vehicle?
No. When we drove down there, we parked because both vehicles were already there at that time.
All right. Now, can I have him approach that?
Yeah, if you want to get up, be careful going down the stairs and approach that, okay.
All right, and tell us what happened when you went down to that lower parking lot. What did you see?
When we drove down there, there was 2 vehicles parked.
And show the jury where those 2 vehicles were.
They were parked right in here somewhere.
All right, and then where did you go?
I parked right here along the grass.
All right, and do you remember, did you go around that teardrop? What did you do?
No, I just drove in there, just did a circle and parked right there along the grass.
And I'll ask you to use your finger to point what you did out.
We drove down and we went by the cars and I just turned right there and parked.
Okay, so you didn't use the teardrop to turn around. You just turned around there in the parking lot.
Yep.
And then you were facing towards the driveway that comes up.
I was facing going back up the hill.
All right. Is there a reason that you pulled in that way instead of just pulling into the parking spaces?
No?
All right. And so your side was closest to the 2 vehicles?
Yes.
And then did you get out of your vehicle?
No.
And did anyone else get out of your vehicle?
Randy, you got out of my view.
And did you see anything or hear anything that he was carrying? I'm sorry, let's start with one. Did you see anything that he was carrying?
No.
Did you, and then, did he have anything in his hands that you
No.
remember? All right, and where did he go?
He got out of my vehicle and walked over to the other 2 vehicles.
And be specific, where did he go, on one side of the 2 vehicles?
I don't know. I couldn't see him, it was dark. And I just know he went to the 2 vehicles.
All right, and so I'll have you return that microphone and you can go back to the, okay. Now, prior to Randy getting out of the vehicle, did he ask either of you to go with him?
No, not to get out of the vehicle, no.
Did he tell you to stay in the vehicle?
No,
Did he tell you what he was planning to do?
no.
Now, did you hear any of the conversation that went on once he approached the other vehicles?
I don't know what their conversation was at the vehicles. I just heard it towards the end when one person was yelled at Randy.
Well, what was said, if you remember?
Go ahead. Fuck you, Randy, what are you gonna do, shoot me?
All right, what happened after that?
The gunshot, and then it was, oh shit.
And could you tell whose voice was that?
Well, it wasn't Randy's.
What's that?
It wasn't Randy's.
Okay.
And I don't know, I've never heard Maury's voice, so I'm sure, I know it was his, but I've never met him or seen him or knew his voice, so I don't know whose voice it was at that time.
And could you be specific about the words that you heard? And if you can't remember, tell me you can't remember and we'll go from there.
I'm pretty, well, it was fuck you, Randy, what are you gonna do, shoot me? And then I didn't hear nothing, just gunshot, and then it was, oh fuck.
Did you hear anything beyond that?
No.
All right.
Just a few seconds after that is when Randy got in the car.
All right. And now, in your earlier discussions, there was something in that particular phrase that you included. You're not recalling that right now?
I can't, I'm nervous, I don't know.
All right.
I'm sorry, you're what?
I said I'm nervous, I'm not sure exactly word for word what I said, but
And did you complete an affidavit in your case?
yeah,
And would that help you recall what was said?
yeah.
Would you like to review that to
Yeah.
refresh your recollection?
So let Mr. Thomas look at it, then let's let Mr. Browning look at it, and then we'll give it.
My only comment, Your Honor, is I don't see that says anything different from what he just said. Let's see how his memory refresh.
It is different and.
Well, let's give it to him, that's fine. He can review it, it's not gonna come into evidence, he can refresh his recollection and go from there. Take a minute and look through that, sir.
You mean where I said, oh fuck Randy?
Well,
Hold on.
just a second, yeah. We can have that brought back.
Let me ask your next question, sir.
Thank you. Does that refresh your recollection?
Yeah.
Okay, and what was the phrase that you heard that was said that night after the gunshot?
Oh fuck Randy.
All right. And then, did you look up after the gunshot?
I looked at Billy Burton,
And what was he doing?
the same as I was, our mouths were open and in shock.
Okay. And did you look in the direction of the gunshot?
I couldn't see, I couldn't see. I would have to look back and I couldn't see nothing. It was dark, like I said, it was dark.
And did you, so you didn't watch them while they were talking at all?
No,
What were you doing?
I was on my phone.
Okay. You didn't have any interest in what was going in this little
Like I said
confrontation?
before, it was none of my business. I was raised that if it's not, doesn't pertain to you, keep your nose out of it.
All right. And what happened when Randy got back in your vehicle?
Billy Burton goes, what the fuck, Larkin?
And what was his response, Mr. Larkin's response?
Get the fuck out of here.
Okay. And then what did you do?
I drove away.
All right. And then did Mr. Larkin say anything to you after that?
And he said to keep our mouths shut, snitches they find in ditches.
All right. And then where did you go?
I dropped him off, him and Billy at his house, and I proceeded my way to Arizona.
All right. And did you see a gun that night?
I did not,
Did anyone give you a gun?
did not.
Did anyone give you any money to assist in a crime of violence against Maury Pelton?
No,
Did the call from Randy Larkin, did he request that you help him with a crime of violence against
No.
Mr. Pelton? You went to Arizona. Did you contact the authorities?
no, I did not.
And why not?
Like I said, I was told to keep my mouth shut as soon as they find in ditches, and I took it serious.
Okay. And at some point then, you were contacted by the police.
Yes.
There wasn't a time where, after you got back to Washington, you decided, I'm probably in the clear and I'll just let the law enforcement know what's going on?
No, there was strange vehicles driving by my house, and I was getting calls to keep quiet, so.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
When did you receive these calls?
I don't know the exact days. It was
Sure.
after the incident.
And when was the first one? Can you give us a ballpark? Was it a week? Was it a month?
I don't know, a month maybe or so.
And did you recognize who called you?
No.
And tell us about the nature of that call. What was said?
It just said that I was told to keep quiet.
All right. And did you receive a text or a call from Mr. Larkin while you were in Arizona?
Yeah.
And what was the nature of that call?
To see if I made it all right and to rephrase about keeping quiet.
All right. Now, the first phone call occurred about a month after, but you said there were additional phone calls?
Yeah.
And can you tell us what was the frequency?
It was all about the same.
How many were total?
I don't remember. I got a couple of text messages in there too that was on my phone.
And who were
Yeah,
they?
Your Honor, I'm going to object without further foundation as to who was sending the texts.
I'm gonna ask, I'm gonna sustain that. You can ask questions, however.
Okay, well, you looked at your phone and there was a text. Could you tell who it was from?
No, I did not know the number.
So you started receiving,
I quit answering actually, anything had to do with the 208 number or anything I didn't respond to.
all right. And were these texts that you're talking about, were they coming from a 208 number?
There was, some of them were with no number.
All right. And then, what did you do with your SUV?
A buddy of mine got it. He needed a vehicle.
All right, so you sold it?
Yes.
Okay. Did you pass through Idaho on your way back to Washington from Arizona?
Yes.
And did you have some contact with Mr. Larkin at that point?
Yes.
And what was the contact?
I wrecked my car, I don't know, a year and a half or so before that. And it was I left it at his family's farm that they sold. And I was trying to get Randy to make arrangements for me to pick that vehicle up.
All right, and did you pick the vehicle up?
No, I did not.
Okay.
They weren't available for me to pick it up.
Did you have any face-to-face contact with Mr. Larkin in Idaho after you returned from Arizona?
Yes.
And where did that occur?
It was at a hotel he was staying at
Where was the hotel?
in Idaho Falls.
All right. And what was your conversation with Mr. Larkin that day?
About getting my stuff. He got a hold of the family so I could pick up my car at that family's farm.
And so Mr. Larkin was staying in a hotel?
Yeah, him and his daughter were there.
Did he say why he was staying in a hotel? Did he tell you what his plans were?
No, he just took that. By then he took me to Keegan's house where I picked up some of my car parts that Keegan had gotten.
Did you have any discussion about the shooting?
Nope,
Had you read about it by then?
nope,
Did you learn anything more about it?
not until I was back in Washington.
All right.
I didn't even look, like I said, about 208 numbers. I didn't do nothing with 208 numbers.
No further questions, Randy.
Morning, Mr. Hamlin.
Morning.
I do have some questions for you. I'd like to pick up on a few facts. As I understand it, you were in Washington and Randy texted you sometime before May 12th, 2022, correct?
Mhm.
And he said that he didn't have any meth, and he wanted you to bring some meth from Washington?
Yes, if I could pick some, if I could find some.
Okay, he wanted some.
Right.
Okay. And so he was going to pay you $500 to bring some meth so we could have some?
Yes.
So your understanding was that he was going to be there in Swan Valley, and you brought the meth with you and arrived at Randy's house in Swan Valley. Was that on May 12th that you arrived? The day that Maury was shot?
Yes.
Okay. And when you arrived at Randy's house, Randy was not there?
He was not there when I arrived in the morning.
Right.
And so I dropped my trailer off at his house and I proceeded to Alpine to see a friend of mine.
Okay.
And I spent the day with her and her kids.
And for those who may not know, probably most people on the jury do know that Alpine is just a short drive from Swan Valley.
20-some miles.
Yeah, I mean, you just go past the reservoir, up through the mountains, and boom, you're there,
Your
right?
Honor, can we have the witness testify rather than?
It's cross-examination, I'm going to allow it.
That's correct, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so you went back to the covered wagon a second time, right?
No, that was for the first time.
Yeah, right. The first time you went there, Randy's not there.
I went to his house, he wasn't home.
Okay.
So then I went to Alpine and I came back and that's when I texted him.
Okay.
And then he came to his house and then we went to the covered wagon.
Okay. Went to the covered wagon together?
Yep, he rode my car. That's when he asked me if I could
I'm
give
sorry,
him.
can we slow the pace?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Just a little bit?
Sure.
Can you repeat your question?
You
Last
bet.
question.
So, yeah, if you could just lead us through where you met Randy and then over at his house. What happened then?
He asked me if I could give him a ride to go meet somebody. And I said, yeah. Because I was going to drop him off and I was going to head him on my way to Arizona. And so we went to the covered wagon and he was waiting for a phone call or a text message, whatever it was. And then we left.
Okay. Let's talk about that when you were there at the covered wagon. I believe you said that you had a beer
Yeah.
and Randy had a beer?
I don't remember if Randy had a beer or not. I don't remember. But Billy and I did.
Okay.
And because Billy was sitting at the table with us and we sat there and all bullshitted.
Okay. And so the three of you just chatting?
Yeah, just random chatting.
Okay. And during the time that you were doing this, did Randy say that he was waiting for a phone call?
He was waiting for a phone call or something for us to where they were going to meet.
Okay. And so Randy was not the one directing where the meeting was going to take place then, is that true?
No objection, Your Honor. This isn't his personal knowledge, it calls for him to speculate on what Randy was doing.
Sustain that as far as foundation.
Sure, tell me about that. As I understand, you told me a moment ago that Randy was waiting for a phone call for somebody to tell him where a meeting was going to take place. Is that true?
I'll object again. It misstates the testimony here. He may have said that he was waiting, but I don't know about this "I'll tell him," part of the statement that counsel's
I'll
made.
sustain that as well.
Okay. So what was your understanding of who was going to be choosing the meeting place?
So objection, foundation.
I'm going to allow that. It's what's his understanding.
Yes, sir.
He just said that he was waiting for a phone call from somebody where we were going to go
Okay.
in Idaho Falls.
Okay. And let's see, at some point he got a phone call?
Or yeah, I can't remember if it was a phone call. It's been a while ago. A phone call or a text message, but he received something because he said, "Let's go."
Okay, when he said let's go, it was daylight out, correct?
No, I think it was, if I remember right, it was getting kind of dark. I don't think it was quite dark, but it was getting dark.
Okay. And do you know about what time it was in the evening?
It was after dinner
Okay.
because I ate dinner with Lindsay and her daughters.
Okay. Question for you. Do you know about how long you guys have been sitting there waiting for the phone call?
I finished one beer.
An hour, 2 hours,
No, probably half hour,
half hour? Okay.
maybe a little longer.
Okay. And where was your understanding of the place that you were going to meet first?
In Idaho Falls.
Okay, but then, as I understand it, Randy told you that the meeting place was going to be someplace called the Dollar Store?
I don't know if I can't remember if he said the dollar store or not, but I just know it was in Idaho Falls. He said just go to Idaho Falls and we'll go from there.
Okay. Did he say anything about, talk about the three of you and Billy and himself going to a bar in Idaho Falls?
That's where I thought we were going.
Right, okay. Muddy's, does that sound familiar? Muddy's Bar?
I don't know, I've never been there.
Okay. So you're waiting anyway, he says, let's go, and you're heading to Idaho Falls. At some point, does he say, you know, we're making a diversion in some way?
Yeah, he said he got a text or a phone call, I can't remember which one for sure, that the plans have changed.
Okay. And the plans have changed from what to what?
Instead of going to Idaho Falls, we're meeting at the rest area.
Okay. And let's see, going back to when you were at the, you met Randy at his house, and you said the two of you went together to the covered wagon?
All three of us did.
Oh, it was Buckskin at Randy's house?
Yes, he was working, he was doing some painting in his kitchen.
Okay. Do I understand that you had meth with you at that time and you gave it to Randy at that time? Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
Did Randy put it away at that time?
I don't know what he did. I know I give it to him, and I don't know if he put it in his pocket or what he did.
Okay. But he didn't smoke it or use it there, correct?
Yeah, he didn't when I was there.
Okay. So anyway, you go to the bar, and so Randy may have had one beer.
A beer or a drink or something, yeah.
Okay. But he wasn't drunk, correct?
No.
And he wasn't high, correct?
I didn't see him use.
Okay, and he didn't appear to be high. That'd be fair to say.
No, he didn't seem to be high.
Okay. So you guys go, you're on the road, you're heading over toward the rest area. Let's see. And did Randy say anything about meeting up with a fellow named Kelly Hinks?
No names were brought up or mentioned. He just said he was going to meet with somebody.
Okay. Had you ever met Kelly Hinks before?
I met him one time prior to, a couple years before that when I wrecked my vehicle. He was at Randy's parents' farmhouse helping Randy clean up some stuff up there and helping him box it up because they sold the property.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that you would not recognize Kelly Hinks' voice?
No, I would not.
You would not recognize Kelly Hinks' voice. Is that true?
True.
And also, as I understand your testimony, there wasn't any plan to kill anybody, correct?
No.
I mean, is that correct?
I never heard no plans on killing anybody. All I know is they were going to beat him up and take his drugs and money for what he owed Randy.
I'm sorry, what was that last part?
For what he owed Randy?
And so Randy did talk openly about the fact that this guy owed him money.
Yeah. Him and Billy, yeah, they talked about it.
Okay. But in fact, when you got to the rest area, Randy didn't ask you to go with him to beat up anybody, right?
No.
And Randy did not, in fact, ask Buckskin Billy to go with him to beat anybody up, correct?
No.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so there wasn't any, if there had been any talk about beating them up, that plan, if there was a plan, was abandoned when you got to the rest area, correct?
Correct.
So the people that you took there was one fellow that was just going to sit in the car, wait for Randy to come back, and correct?
Excuse me, what's that? One more time?
Okay. For the, you said the two people were talking about beating him up. What actually
Two
happened?
people were talking about what?
About beating Maury Pelton up. That they didn't do that.
No.
So Billy sits in the car.
I'm sorry?
Billy sits in the car. And Randy walks out. And as I understand your testimony, you didn't see Randy carrying anything, is that correct?
That is correct.
So Randy walks up to the car, and when you got to that rest area, Randy did not tell you to hide your vehicle, did he?
No,
Is that true?
that's true.
He didn't tell you to park at any particular place, just park where, is that fair?
He didn't tell you nothing. I just did the U-turn there and parked right where I parked.
Okay. And when you parked, you weren't blocking Mr. Pelton's car, were you?
No,
Is that correct?
that is correct.
Okay. The reason, this happens all the time in trials, where
Just ask the question.
I'm just trying to explain why I'm correcting him.
Just ask the question.
Okay. So anyway, Randy also did not tell people in the car, don't listen to what I'm saying, correct? Is that correct?
That's correct.
And he didn't tell you to roll up your window so that you couldn't hear, is that correct?
That's correct.
And he didn't tell you to avert your eyes so you couldn't see, is that correct?
That's correct.
And he didn't say anything to Buckskin about don't look or don't listen, correct?
No, he never said anything to either of us.
Okay, so he was not concerned at all that the people in the car could see or hear anything that was going to transpire at Mr. Pelton's vehicle. Is that true?
Objection. This calls for him to talk about somebody else's concern.
Did he give you any impression that he was trying to hide anything that he was doing when he met with Maury Pelton?
Not that I could see, no.
And you said that you heard somebody shout out something in the car, and you used a particular phrase when you said you'd hear there was some argument going on. Before I ask you about that, can you tell me about the state of your hearing? You have a hearing impairment?
Not really a hearing impairment. I got, this ear here got ringing.
Okay. Is it tinnitus?
I don't know what that is.
It's ringing in the ears?
Objection, Your Honor. You can't testify to what tinnitus is. He wants to ask a different
Well,
question.
I'm going to allow it.
Yeah, I got it ringing in the ear. I haven't been diagnosed with it, but I got ringing in the ear.
Okay, that interferes with your hearing somewhat?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, you're sitting in your car, but you do hear that there's an argument going on, correct?
Correct. I just hear voices raised.
Okay, voices are raised, so would it be fair to say that you heard two angry people?
Yeah.
That'd be fair to say?
Yeah.
And you said, could you repeat what it is that you remember hearing as you were sitting in your car?
Voice got real loud and I heard, "Fuck you, Randy. What are you gonna do, shoot me?"
Okay. And the jury's gonna be hearing, we're all gonna be hearing from Kelly Hink's grand jury testimony.
You can have a question, Your Honor.
If you'll let me finish.
Go ahead. Go ahead with your question, and there could be an objection.
And there's going to be testimony that someone else is being Maury, Kelly Hink said, "Oh, so you brought a gun, hey? Is it possible?"
I didn't.
Kelly Hinks will be testifying, basically he's dead.
Right, I understand that.
But 2 months and 1 day after May 12th, he gave that.
Just ask the question.
Okay. That another person said that he heard, quote, "Oh, so you brought a gun, hey?" Is it possible that that's what Maury said?
Possibly, but I thought I heard what I heard.
Okay, so he might have said that. You're remembering it as, "Oh, what are you going to do, shoot me?" And somebody else remembers it different. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that could be.
Okay. You said later somebody said something about, "I ain't afraid of you," and what do you remember? You said something about hearing a voice saying, "I ain't afraid of you." Do you remember what that quote was?
Yeah, that was all in the same thing when he said that, "What are you gonna do, shoot me?" I don't think I heard him say, "I'm not afraid of you," but I heard just that, "What are you gonna do, shoot me?"
Okay?
I mean, it could have been, I'm not afraid of you, but to me it sounded like, what are you gonna do, shoot me?
Okay? Sometime shortly after that, you heard a gunshot.
Yes.
Then you heard somebody say, the words that you used were, "Oh, fuck, Randy."
Yeah.
And you're not sure who that person was.
No?
And could have been Maury Pelton, and could have been Kelly Hinks, would that be fair to say?
It could have been, but I would think it would have been.
Well, I'm just asking you this.
Well,
Could have been.
Your Honor,
Okay.
he's interrupting the answer.
Yeah.
He was about to
Hold
speculate.
on. The answers come in. Go ahead.
Okay, we'll continue. And after you heard that shot, you saw Randy,
After the shot, Randy come over and got back in the vehicle.
right? Fair to say that you were shaken up at that time.
Well, yeah.
And also be fair to say that Randy was shaken up at that time.
I would assume he would be.
And how about Buckskin? He was shaken up?
Yeah, I believe we all were. I mean,
It was a surprising event. Is that fair to say?
I never seen a gun, so yeah, it was a surprise to hear a gun. I didn't know if there was a tussle between them or what happened, but it's just that, yeah, the gunshot was a surprise.
Okay. And then Randy just said something like, "Just get out of here."
Yeah.
And so it would be fair to say that at that point, the plans for the evening changed.
Yes.
And Randy just tell you to go back to his house.
He said, get out of there, and I just took him back to his house.
Okay. So there wasn't, at that point, nobody was interested in going to Idaho Falls to party. Is that fair to say?
No,
Is that fair to say?
that's fair to say.
It would also be fair to say that all of you were scared.
Yeah.
Objection, Your Honor. It calls for speculation about the other two people.
Staying.
I was scared. I
Okay.
don't know, at that point, I didn't know.
Wait, there's no question.
Let's ask, let Mr. Bernie ask a question. You're fine.
Okay. And a week later after this event, you get a call from Detective Husted? One of the detectives
Yes.
from the Bonneville County Sheriff's Office.
Yes.
And he's asking you what you knew about, if anything, about events of May 12, and if you knew anything about Maury Pelton's death, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you're afraid to tell him the truth, correct?
I was afraid to say anything.
Okay. And later, the prosecutor found out that you did not tell the truth.
Objection,
What-
Your Honor.
is that
It's talking
true?
about what I did, so this is not a proper question.
I'm gonna allow it.
Okay, I want to ask you about your interactions with your state of mind when you said things. Before you made any official statement to the court or the Bonneville County Sheriff's Office, were you threatened?
I had a couple phone calls.
I mean, were you threatened? Did anything threatening happen to you from the prosecutor's office?
Please, sidebar.
Sure.
3.1 F.
Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Thanks, Ron. Mr. Helm, you can relax. I have a question. Sometime after your conversation with the detective from the Bonneville County Sheriff's Office, you were charged with first-degree murder, correct?
Yes.
How'd that make you feel?
Not real good.
What were you afraid of when they did that?
Going to prison.
For a long time?
Yes.
Very long time?
Yeah.
How long did you sit in jail? And now, did they arrest you when they charged you with first-degree murder?
They charged me when they came and picked me up in December
December
or
or
January, I guess it was. They picked me up.
Okay, was that January of this year?
Yes.
And they took you to jail?
Yeah.
And have you been released since then?
No.
What was your bail set at?
500,000.
So you were going to sit there until something happened to change the status quo. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
They make you agree to testify as a condition of changing your situation.
Did they what?
Did they make you agree to testify in this court concerning the charges against Randy Larkin as a condition of changing your situation, of being charged with first-degree murder?
I'll object to the form of the question, saying that they make him.
Sustained.
Did you believe that you had to testify against Randy Larkin in order to have the charges of first-degree murder dropped against you?
I took a plea. Yeah, I did.
And that was your state of mind?
Yeah.
And in that plea, there's specific language about that testimony. And isn't it true that in that plea, and this is actually at paragraph 8 of your plea agreement concerning, it says truthful testimony. After saying that you're agreeing to tell, it says you've got to tell the truth. And then it says, quote, see if you remember this. Defendant acknowledges that this plea agreement would be violated if it is shown that testimony by affidavit or otherwise that the defendant has provided or will provide was knowingly false, or that the defendant withheld or concealed relevant material facts known to the defendant from the state or the court. That was a condition of your agreement, correct?
Yes.
And did it concern you that if the prosecutor of the state believed that you were not telling the truth as they understood it, that your plea agreement is out the window?
Yes.
And you could be right back sitting faced with first-degree murder. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
All questions I have for this witness, Your Honor.
Brown?
Now, some of the testimony that you gave today, actually, you provided to the police before you were arrested, is that correct?
Correct.
Were there any facts that you provided today that you hadn't provided to the police before?
Excuse me?
Were there any facts that you provided in your testimony today that you hadn't provided to the police before you were arrested?
No.
And when you were giving the information to the police during your interview, were you afraid of the police or were you afraid of Mr. Larkin?
I was afraid of both. I didn't trust,
Go ahead.
I didn't trust the detective when we were talking. He didn't make me feel like I could trust him. But
And the reason for your fear, you talked about phone calls. And then you talked about something that was said by Mr. Larkin while you were driving back towards Swan Valley.
yes,
And what was that again?
snitches they find in ditches.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Snitches they find in ditches.
Did you make any other threats?
No,
Did you threaten anyone else?
I have no idea.
Did you threaten anybody else related to you?
I don't know. Randy didn't. Nobody else got any threats or nothing. Just people driving by the house.
Okay. Do you remember telling the police about a threat towards your family?
Yes.
Okay, who made that threat?
Nobody made it. I didn't. I was afraid that there would be threats.
You thought your family was in danger?
Yes. If I was getting the calls, I'm sure they were watching my family too.
All right, let's go back to the night of the 12th. So when you heard the shot, you heard something that was said after that.
Yeah.
And was that voice the same voice you'd been hearing before?
I believe it was, but I can't be positive because, like I said, when I heard the gunshot, it was like a big surprise.
And what did you hear after the gunshot?
Fuck Randy.
Okay. Now, as part of your plea agreement, an affidavit was prepared? Is that correct?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. What was that?
As part of the plea agreement, you prepared an affidavit?
Yeah.
Was everything in that affidavit truthful?
Yes.
And who prepared it?
I believe we did.
And when you say we,
My attorney.
did the prosecutor prepare that affidavit for you?
No, that was just the questions that we prepared in there was what we already talked about.
All right. I have no further questions.
I have a couple, well, I mean, Your Honor? Mr. Hamlin,
Yes.
you said you were, the drive-bys, people were driving by your house that you didn't know and that worried you. That's true?
Yes.
That could have actually been investigators for the county, isn't that true?
They were in different kind of cars and they had tinted windows and their windows were down just a crack. I don't know. It could have been, I don't know.
I mean, have you ever had any experience with undercover police officers that dress like not in uniform and don't appear to be police officers?
No.
Would again, would it be possible then that somebody was keeping an eye on you from the county prosecutor's office from Bonneville County? Is it possible?
It's possible, I guess. Yeah.
That's all.
Mr. Neal?
I don't have any further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hamlin.